In this lesson, we're going to look at true, false, not given questions and yes, no, not given questions. These two types of prompts are very, very similar. In fact, so similar that it's a little bit hard to find big differences between them. I'll talk about a few small differences, but it really does make sense to put both of these prompt types in the same lessons because the same strategies apply, and you shouldn't spend too much time worrying about how they're different. Once you understand the basic strategy for both of these questions, then you'll know how to approach them when you see them on the test. So these true, false, not given and yes, no, not given tend to be some of the more challenging types of prompts for students. And so it's going to be important to know how to approach these and to feel confident about that you know exactly what you're looking for when you're supposed to look for example, a not given answer. What does it mean that the answer is not given? Okay, well, we're going to talk about that here in this lesson. All right, first of all, some basic things on how to approach the question. Just like many other IELTS reading prompt types, scanning is really, really important for this question type. And your job is even more important with true, false, not given questions and yes, no, not given questions, your job of scanning, because you can waste a lot of time searching for things in this prompt type that are just not in the reading passage, okay? One of the answer choices not given, as we'll see in a moment, means that the answer isn't provided by the text. So think about it. If you're searching and searching and searching for something that just isn't there, you can waste a lot of time. So it's important to be very efficient about that. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, as with other prompt types, in this case, it's very important to begin with whatever prompt you think you can find the answer to fastest, okay? And that's especially important for these because with these question types, the answers do come in order. That's a very nice thing to have for this type of prompt, because you'll know when you find that answer to question number 3 that you should look for answers to numbers 1 and 2 before you found that place where you found the answer for number 3, for example. Okay, so once you find one answer that you're pretty confident about, you can go to specific spots in the passage to look for the other answers, the ones that come before and after, and it helps you very often to eliminate some possibilities, right? Because if you know that you've searched and you have a pretty confident sense of what's in, let's say, paragraph 2, and you know the answer would have to be there, but you're just not finding it, you can move ahead and answer not given to that prompt because you're pretty confident it's just not going to be found in the article. Okay, so that's how scanning can really pay off. So you underline those keywords in the prompts, you go find the ones that are easiest for you to locate, and then you hope in the process you find answers to some other prompts as well. That's usually what happens when you use that method and scan appropriately like that. All right, the third point here is that it's very important with this prompt type to really understand the full prompt the best you can, okay? And then your job is to confirm whether or not that information you get in the prompt has one of these 3 relationships, okay? First of all, can you find an idea, okay, the ideas that match the ideas in your question prompt in the text that you're looking at? Okay, so the full idea, all of the points made in the question prompt itself need to be found somewhere in the text, okay? That's when you can answer true, okay, or yes, depending on what question type you have. If you find something that disagrees directly with the statement in the prompt, in other words, it contradicts the prompt, then you can say no or false, okay? So there has to be information in the text that goes against the statement you're looking at in the prompt. That's where you can answer no or false, okay? if the information is not provided by the text, okay, so maybe a small part of the statement can be found, but the entire idea of the whole statement in the prompt cannot be found or located somewhere in the text, then you put not given, okay? And that's where it's this third option down here. The idea is not stated there, and that's where you answer not given for both of the prompt types that we're looking at. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. Either the text confirms the statement, contradicts or goes against it, or the statement simply can't be supported by anything found in the text. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Now, with true, false, not given questions, generally IELTS uses these for factual information that you're going to have to look for in the passage. Yes, no, not given is technically more about ideas, so more about the statements or claims that the writer makes. Very often these questions, the prompts look very similar to each other. For yes, no, not given, you could have some opinion statements that you would have to go and search for whether or not the author would support that claim or not based on what's said there. That you will not find with true, false, not given. But the differences are very small. If you look simply for whether or not the statement is confirmed or contradicted or not found, it works for both of these kinds of question types. Okay, so the differences are not big. I wouldn't dwell on those or really worry about what the differences are between them, as long as you understand what you're looking for both of them. Okay, now let's practice this. Let's do an example question. Okay, so for this, we're going to refer to the clonal colonies passage you see down below. We're going to answer some true, false, not given questions for these, okay? In a moment, I'm going to put your questions on the screen, and as we do in many of these question videos, I'll invite you to pause your video and go look for those answers, okay? Remember, your goal here is to find information that confirms, contradicts, or simply cannot be found in the passage related to these prompts that you're about to see. Okay, I'll put them on the screen. Go ahead and pause your video and go try to answer these questions. All right, let's take a look at the answers for these and talk about how to find the answers for 1 to 3. Clonal colonies are formed when plants produce genetically identical seeds. Okay, genetically identical seeds. Well, we've got a couple of key things to consider. Of course, we're talking about clonal colonies, all right, and that's the main topic for the whole essay. So maybe not a huge clue for you about where to go search initially, but this word seeds, there's only one place really in the entire passage where there's a lengthy discussion of seeds, okay, just a couple of sentences long there. And that may have been a clue that helped you to go find the information. All right. And once you're there, you probably landed on the information that shows that this statement is false that's found in paragraph B, okay? There are some problems, of course, with this statement related to what we see in this part of paragraph B, particularly the underlined parts you see down below. It says, while those species, now we're talking about the group of plants that can produce these clonal colonies that we're talking about, okay? So while those species may reproduce sexually through the production of seeds, there's our key word right there, offspring from those seeds are not considered part of the clonal colony, as they are not genetically identical to the plants that created the seeds. Okay, we've got a kind of definition there, right? That, all right, these plants, they may reproduce via seeds, okay, as other plants do, but though that reproduction, the new plants that arise from that form of reproduction are not considered part of this clonal colony. Okay, so the relationship to our question, number 1, all right, so clonal colonies are formed when plants produce genetically identical seeds. No, we find down here that it actually, even though they can produce seeds, these plants that create clonal colonies, that is not the method of reproduction that's used to create clonal colonies. It's something different, okay? And that process is described here in the essay. Okay, so it's a direct contradiction of what we have, okay? So the statement and this part of the passage contradict one another. The information does not agree. So that's why we can say false for number 1. Okay, question 2. Slicing a rhizome in two can produce 2 independent plants that can live. Okay, a couple of key ideas here. The plants have to be able to live after you cut them. Okay, so they have to be independent after cutting them in two. Okay, and we're talking about this act of slicing. Okay, here we have, and also I should say that one of our key clues here is this idea of the rhizome. Now, the rhizome is a word that's mentioned a couple times, but there is a sort of a definition of it that we find where they talk about rhizomes and ramets. Okay, maybe that was what you chose to scan for first as you were going through this passage. I don't know. But of course, that's probably a key word that you might go hunt for, because that might be an easy one for you to find as you scan for the answer here. Okay, so ideas to look for. Slicing a rhizome, okay, and the result of slicing a rhizome is that we get 2 plants and they can live on after they've been cut in two, okay? All right, where do we find something like that, if at all? Well, the answer is true because we find that information in paragraph D, okay? Particularly this part that's underlined. It says, however, if the connection between 2 stems, the rhizome, okay, there's our key word right there, is cut, neither will necessarily die. It is possible to sever one ramet and its most immediate roots from a system and transfer that stock to the new location, plant it, and have it survive. Okay, you see the direct paraphrases here. Surviving is the same as living, right? And it talks about severing and cutting, okay? And that's what we're talking about when we get it paraphrased here, where they discuss slicing a rhizome. Okay, so really the idea is confirmed directly, okay? It's a paraphrase, but since we find this same idea in full in the passage, we can say true for this because it's confirmed. The last one. Okay, some biologists dispute the claim that Pando is the heaviest living organism. Okay, now we can go find information on Pando probably easily by scanning. Again, one of my favorite things to do in the reading section is to use a key word that has a capital letter, because I think those are easiest to find, these proper nouns. Okay, so that's a favorite of mine, and maybe you use that one to go search for first. I don't know, and if you did, you went to the end of the essay, right? And what did you find there? Were you able to find this full idea in the last paragraph, in the last paragraphs there of the passage? Well, you should not have been able to find the full idea, because this answer is not given. There is, in section F, a section on Pando and some questions about whether or not Pando is, in fact, as big as we think it might be, okay? Because there's some uncertainty about that. So the ideas here are somewhat present in the passage, but remember, we've got to confirm or find information that contradicts the full idea in the question prompt, right? The full idea has to be there, okay? And that's where we run into problems with prompt number 3, okay? Because the information that's most closely associated with this here is in this underlined part, and what we're going to find is that there isn't really a discussion of what biologists, or whether or not biologists dispute this, okay? That idea from the prompt is not given. let's read through the part down below. It says, similarly, collections of plants believed to belong to a single colony may actually be separated at some point in the unseen root system with a section of rhizome that has died or been cut, and thus not be part of one discrete organism. Although there has been no clear evidence that Pando's root system is divided this way, it remains a possibility. For that reason, its status as the world's heaviest living thing may not be accurate. But even so, the top of the list would certainly be a clonal colony, Pando or not. Okay, do you see how there's a statement that's kind of like what we have in number 3, where there's uncertainty about the weight of Pando? But there is no discussion of this. And that's why we cannot confirm fully this idea. And we have to say not given. It can't be confirmed, and when it cannot be contradicted by the text, there's no information provided. And that's what you're looking for these not given answers with both of these question types. Okay? So hopefully that helps you see. I think the not given ones are the most difficult, and they cause students the most stress, probably because you're not sure if you've ever found the full answer or not. You're not sure if you should stop looking. Okay, in general, my recommendation is if you've gone through and you think you have a pretty good idea where the information's found, but you yourself cannot confirm or contradict based on what you read there, it's best not to waste a lot of time and continue searching and searching and searching for that information. It's better to say not given and move on to the next question in most cases. Okay, so let's review this very quickly. As we saw earlier in the lesson, with this question type, it's very important to scan for details very efficiently. Use all those Sun method strategies to get you to answer the easiest questions first and move on and hopefully learn about the passage as you're answering questions, okay? Number 2, answers come in the same order as the text. That's extremely useful for this question type to give you clues about where to search for answers after you found an answer that you feel pretty confident about. And the last one, the point of these questions, what does it mean to say true or yes? Well, it means, as we've said a few times in this lesson, that the information is either in the prompt is either fully confirmed by the text, is fully contradicted by the text, or simply you cannot find that information in the text itself. Okay, so these are our true, false, not given, and yes, no, not given prompts. Okay, go ahead and practice, do as much practice as you can with these question types, and you'll feel more and more comfortable as you go through the answers and try to understand them as you go.